Navy in Millennium Dawn cannot be understood without a basic understanding for how vanilla naval systems work in Hearts of Iron 4. I'm going to start by overviewing basic naval principles, and then overview how things are different in Millennium Dawn. If you would like to properly learn naval combat in HOI4, I will provide a link in the description. Navy is best understood as line combat. In HOI4, there are 3 lines. In the front, there are smaller ships to make up your screen line. With a light range of armaments, their main job is to stop your backlines from being attacked. This will be in vanilla, where all your destroyers go, and cruisers that lack any heavy modules. Essentially, these ships are the armor of your fleet. Their job is to get in between the bigger ships in your fleet and the enemy. You want a lot of ships here, as a 4-to-1 ratio between heavy ships and light ships is optimal. If you are able to maintain that ratio, almost no damage should be getting through, allowing your damage-dealing ships in the second and third lines to be able to do extensive damage without getting attacked and sunk. Screens may do a little damage themselves, but it is minor in comparison to the backlines. In the second line, you have all of your heavy ships, which include cruisers with heavy modules, battleships, and battlecruisers. These ships are the DPS of your fleet. If you build them correctly, they are able to exert an absolutely massive amount of damage on the enemy. This line is only able to be attacking if the first one fails. If your fleet takes a heavy beating in combat, and you lose a lot of your screen line, damage will start to go into the second line, and these ships will be sunk. It is also important to note that torpedoes are able to get past the first line sometimes, so a lot of subs or torpedo screens can hit this line, but not efficiently. Lastly, there's the backline, which is where your carriers go. These ships are the heart and soul of any post-World War II Navy, and their ability to bring naval bombers to bear efficiently in the battle is incredibly deadly. Just like the other lines, this line will only get targeted if the ones in front of it are destroyed for the most part. Therefore, they should be doing damage until the end of the battle. Carriers use planes to do damage to the enemy. It is important that, unlike all the other types of damage, they hit the back line and go forward, meaning they target the carrier line of the enemy first, then the second line, and then the screens. This is the basic concept of naval mechanics in HOI4. I'm dramatically simplifying things here. To keep it simple, your front line is like the MMO tank, the second line your DPS, and the last line your DPS on a fuckload of steroids. Admiral skills and level will give you numerous advantages, as well as positioning, which is gained by spotting and engaging the enemy first, as well as other officer corps bonuses. Millennium Dawn's naval system is different, in that heavy attack has been replaced with anti-ship guided missiles, which is somewhat like a combination of torpedo damage and heavy attack. It is more effective than light attack at present and should be utilized as such. Anti-air is now incredibly important, as modern naval bombers will destroy anything without an AA module on it. In Millennium Dawn, AA is not spread out throughout a battle group, as much, meaning in vanilla, you will have to get all your ships having an AA module or more. Next, I'm going to cover the module types you have for your ships, and what they are for. In this guide, I will explain what some of the best ship designs are, but you might want to build your own, and this will explain how to do so. Let's start with light guns. These are similar to vanilla in that they are great DPS, and can hit most types of ships. Light attack is, however, not as good as anti-ship guided missiles, but is still very effective if you put them into your first and second lines. Point defense systems give you anti-air. They, or a similar module, are a requirement for all ships, as they are what stop carriers and naval bombers from picking off every single one of your ships one by one. This module also gives an HP bonus, which is useful. Keep in mind, after a certain point, HP doesn't really matter, as it is the ship org, which dictates whether you stay in combat or not. Turret missiles come in several forms. The RAM module are similar to point defense systems, but have a higher cost and do give more AA. Anti-ship missiles are costly, but do a lot of anti-ship damage, which is the best type in Millennium Dawn. Anti-submarine missiles are effective at killing subs, but do keep in mind visibility. As such, they are very hard to kill subs, generally speaking. ASW torpedoes are for destroying subs and are fairly effective at what they do, assuming you have some sonar. Critical launching systems are high cost but effective at what they do. Anti-ship missiles do a lot of damage, and do give a bit of HP as well. Line attack missiles are effective at shore bombardment. In Millennium Dawn, shore bombardment damage is based off of the fleet's land combat support statistic. Fuel tanks give your ships a percentage larger maximum range, which is especially important for any vessels you plan to use far from home, like submarines on convoy raiding missions. Anti-ship torpedoes do ship-guided missile damage and are very useful for their low cost. Gun batteries on bigger ships do a lot of light damage that tears through the front line for a high cost and increased visibility, meaning your ships are easier to hit. Heavy ones are similar and do about the same. Helipads are incredibly useful as they provide surface detection, which lets your ship be able to detect and easily hit enemy vessels. ESMs are always worth adding if you can, and putting at least one on your ship makes them harder to hit and gives more HP. In order to build a fleet, you will need a combination of ships. I'm going to explain to you the 3 lines we talked about earlier in the context of designing ships in Millennium Dawn. In your front screen line, you will have corvettes and frigates. These ships again act as your armor or defense in the fleet, meaning you should be prioritizing high max speed, HP, and low visibility, essentially making them as hard to hit and as tough as you possibly can. Something like this would do a good job of being semi-cost effective and a very effective screen line. You can switch it around as you like, but remember that some modules give HP percent bonuses, and the job of these ships, unless you have a tiny fleet, is not to do damage, but rather take it. For your second line, which is the damage dealing one, you have destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships to choose from. Your optimal goal here, unless you are role-playing and have massive time or dockyard output, is to find a good balance between cost and damage. These ships need to put out as much damage as possible for the production cost. Generally, I make destroyers, as they are the best at this, but anything can work. This ship is a good balance between cost and damage output. If you get a few of these in your fleet, they should shred the enemy screen line and second line very quickly. Lastly, we have the third line, which is the one that your carriers will be in. It is important to consider whether or not you should even try to make these, as these ships are incredibly costly to produce. If you start with some, I would advise refitting them rather than just making new ones, unless you have a lot of dockyards. Carriers are different from vanilla, in that they are more dangerous and effective, and their design is slightly different. The main feature for producing them is the carrier size modules, which dictates how many planes the carrier can hold. More is of course better, but keep in mind the cost goes up massively. The purpose of this ship is to simply be the vessel by which you use planes to destroy the enemy's back line. They will also be targeted first by enemy aircraft and carriers, so AA is not optional if you want them to last for the full fight. Going for the largest deck side and maximum AA is your best bet, so a design like this would prove effective if you have the production capacity. Plane-wise for carriers, you want to have the most advanced you can possibly get. Multi-role fighters are preferable. The other ship type I have not mentioned are submarines. These ships do not appear on any of the 3 lines I mentioned for naval combat. They exist below the action and can only be targeted by anti-submarine weapons. It is easiest to kill them when they are alone raiding convoys. Destroying them in major fleet battles is difficult at best, meaning they are an incredibly effective DPS tool, much like carriers, and that they will not be killed quickly or easily. Keeping some in your main fleet for battles, and some separate for convoy raiding is the best strategy generally speaking. Here is an effective design to use generally for submarines. In terms of technologies to prioritize, make sure always to be as advanced as possible fire control systems, as they give massive bonuses to all ships. Radar is also huge for being able to maximize damage output and targeting enemy ships as well as AA. Missiles provide major bonuses to AA, and will give your fleet a lot more defensive capacity from carriers and naval bomber. Go to your missile screen and the air defense tab to find the fleet air defense system. This is a flat debuff or buff depending on what you have active. With nothing on this, your whole fleet will suffer a massive 50% debuff to AA. Make sure to activate them and deploy surface-to-air missiles. To do this, you will have to produce them, assign them to this mission. The research can be found here in the Air and Missile Defense Technology tab. Satellites will also give huge naval bonuses. In order to upgrade these, make sure to watch the economic tutorial for the 1.7 update. GNSS positioning and naval hit chance bonuses are incredibly powerful. Communication satellites give fleet coordination bonuses, and recon satellites give spotting and convoy rating bonuses. If you want to maximize your fleet power, make sure that you utilize the satellite system effectively. Navy is something that oftentimes gets overlooked in HOI4 generally, and especially in mods. Millennium Dawn is lucky to have a good dev team that prioritizes a lot of the little things, leading to a much more in-depth and enjoyable mod. Navy in Millennium Dawn is incredibly fun once you get the hang of it, and if you're like me, you may find yourself playing games solely based around becoming a naval power. Regardless of your interest, I hope this video gave you a better understanding of how Navy works in Millennium Dawn. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy. I'll see you in the next video.